The Empty Mansion. The Wright estate sprawled across 5 acres of manicured gardens, its limestone facade catching the afternoon light as Jonathan Wright's Bentley rolled up the circular driveway. At 51, Jonathan had accomplished what most could only dream of, founder and CEO of Horizon Technologies, with a net worth that placed him comfortably among the country's elite. The mansion before him represented success by any measurable standard, yet it had felt hollow for the past 7 years. Mrs. Henderson, the housekeeper, greeted him at the door with practiced efficiency. "Welcome home, Mr. Wright. We weren't expecting you until next week." "Change of plans," Jonathan replied, handing off his coat. "The Singapore meeting's wrapped early. Is Olivia home?" "She's at debate practice. Should be back around 6. Mrs. Henderson hesitated. "Tomorrow is, well, you know." Jonathan stiffened. Of course he knew. 7 years tomorrow since Amelia had lost her battle with cancer. 7 years of carefully scheduling international trips to coincide with the anniversary. 7 years of avoiding the date like a physical blow. "I'm aware of the date, thank you," he said curtly, ending the conversation. His footsteps echoed through the marble foyer as he climbed the grand staircase to his wing of the house. Everything was immaculate, every surface polished, every painting perfectly aligned. A museum to a life no longer lived. Amelia's touches remained throughout the house, from the art she'd selected to the color schemes she'd designed, but her warmth had vanished with her last breath. Jonathan paused at his office, door glancing down the opposite hallway toward Olivia's room. When was the last time he'd been inside it? Her 14th birthday, perhaps? No, her 15th, when he'd stopped by between meetings to drop off the keys to the new Mercedes he'd bought her, even though she wouldn't be able to drive it for another year. 19-year-old Olivia was practically a stranger to him now. Their interactions were limited to brief exchanges during the rare dinners when both were home, or perfunctory video calls when he traveled. His executive assistant managed Olivia's expenses, educational arrangements, and logistical needs. Mrs. Henderson handled the household. Between them and the gardener, cook, and driver, Olivia wanted for nothing, except perhaps a father. Jonathan entered his office and immediately immersed himself in work emails. Numbers, projections, acquisitions, these made sense. These didn't hurt. These didn't remind him of warm, brown eyes exactly like Olivia's, or the scent of gardenia perfume, or the sound of Amelia's laughter echoing through rooms that now stood silent. Hours passed. The light outside faded to dusk. A soft knock at the door barely registered. "Mr. Wright? Olivia has returned. Will you be joining her for dinner?" Mrs. Henderson asked. Jonathan checked his watch. "No, I have calls with Tokyo. Have something sent up." After Mrs. Henderson left, Jonathan moved to the window. Below, he caught a glimpse of Olivia crossing the garden toward the small stone pavilion, near the pond, Amelia's favorite spot. She carried something in her arms, but he couldn't make out what it was. For a brief moment, Jonathan felt an urge to follow her, to see what drew his daughter to that place so close to the anniversary. Instead, he turned back to his computer screen. After all, he had built his empire by focusing forward, never looking back. I'll continue with parts 2 to 5 of the story, making them slightly longer than the first part. Part 2, Shadows of Memory. The next morning dawned gray and drizzling, as if the sky itself remembered what day it was. Jonathan woke before his alarm, the heaviness in his chest familiar yet no less suffocating. 7 years. He'd normally be halfway across the world by now, in Dubai negotiating contracts, or in Tokyo finalizing acquisitions. Anywhere but here, where memories lurked in every corner. He moved silently through his morning routine, his mind already plotting an escape. Perhaps he could still book a flight somewhere, anywhere. The sound stopped him as he passed the east wing. Piano notes, delicate and haunting, drifted through the corridor. Jonathan followed the music like a man in a trance, drawn to the conservatory he hadn't entered in years. The door stood slightly ajar, and through the gap, he saw Olivia. She sat at Amelia's grand piano, her fingers moving with a grace that took his breath away. When had she learned to play like that? The piece was one of Amelia's compositions, a melody Jonathan had buried deep in his memory, yet recognized instantly. The sight of his daughter, so like her mother in that moment, froze him in place. The conservatory had been transformed. Dozens of candles flickered on every surface, casting warm light over framed photographs of Amelia that hadn't been displayed in the main house for years. A projector cast home videos against the far wall, Amelia laughing on a beach, teaching a young Olivia to make cookies, opening Christmas presents. Most striking was the memorial Olivia had created on a small table, Amelia's favorite books, her gardening gloves, her mother's locket, and a journal Jonathan had never seen before. Beside it sat an untouched place setting, a teacup filled with Amelia's preferred Earl Grey, as if waiting for her to join them. "Happy anniversary, Mom," Olivia said softly as the piece ended. Her voice, though quiet, carried clearly to Jonathan. "I added some new photos this year, and Mrs. Henderson helped me find that video from Santorini. Remember how Dad couldn't figure out how to work the parasail?" She laughed, wiping away tears. Jonathan's throat tightened. He hadn't heard Olivia laugh in so long. "I got into Princeton, Mom. Early decision came yesterday. Dad doesn't know yet. He just got back, and you know how he is. Always too busy." The bitterness in her voice struck him like a physical blow. "I think you'd be proud, though. It's what we always talked about." She moved to the projector, changing to another video. Amelia, in a hospital bed, looking thin but smiling as she read a story to a 12-year-old Olivia. "Sometimes I wonder if he ever loved you the way I did," Olivia continued, her voice breaking. "He erased you so completely. It's like he couldn't wait to forget." Jonathan's legs nearly buckled. Is that what she thought? That he'd wanted to forget Amelia? "Rebecca's coming later. She brings me stories about you every year, the ones from before you met Dad. She says I'm just like you." Olivia smiled through tears. "I wish Dad could see that too. But he barely looks at me anymore." Jonathan stepped back, a floorboard creaking beneath his weight. Olivia's head snapped up. "Who's there?" she called, quickly wiping her eyes. Jonathan nearly fled, the coward's instinct strong. Instead, something, perhaps Amelia herself, held him in place. He pushed the door open. "Olivia," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I didn't mean to intrude." His daughter stared at him, shock giving way to embarrassment, then anger. "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be gone. You're always gone today." The accusation hung between them, undeniable and damning. "I came home early," he said lamely, taking in the elaborate memorial. "How long have you been doing this?" "Every year since she died," Olivia replied, chin lifting defiantly. Someone in this family had to remember her. The words struck deeper than any business rival's attack ever had. Jonathan stepped into the room, feeling like an intruder in his own home, in his daughter's grief, a grief he'd never allowed her to share with him. "Princeton?" he asked softly. "When were you going to tell me?" "When would you have had time to listen?" she countered, and Jonathan had no answer. The letter's truth. Later that afternoon, the doorbell rang. Jonathan, who had retreated to his study after the painful encounter with Olivia, heard unfamiliar footsteps approaching. A gentle knock at his door was followed by Mrs. Henderson's voice. "Mr. Wright? Ms. Rebecca Thornton is here to see Miss Olivia, but she's asked to speak with you first." Jonathan vaguely recalled the name. Amelia's childhood friend, someone from her life before him. The woman who entered his study was in her early 50s, with kind eyes and an air of quiet confidence. "Jonathan," she said without preamble, "it's been a long time. I've seen Olivia every year on this day, but I haven't seen you since the funeral. I prefer to honor Amelia in my own way, he replied stiffly. Rebecca's gaze was uncomfortably perceptive. By pretending she never existed? You don't understand. I understand grief, Jonathan. I also understand what it does to a child when their remaining parent disappears emotionally. She placed a leather-bound journal on his desk. Amelia asked me to give you this when I thought the time was right. For 7 years I've waited. After seeing Olivia today, I can't wait any longer. Jonathan stared at the journal, recognizing Amelia's handwriting on the cover. What is this? Amelia knew she was dying long before she told you, Rebecca said gently. She wrote to you and to Olivia. Letters for birthdays, graduations, wedding days, moments she knew she would miss, and she wrote about how she wanted you both to live after she was gone. With trembling hands, Jonathan opened the journal. A sealed envelope with his name fell out, along with a note that read, "For Jonathan, to be opened on the 7th anniversary." 7 years, he whispered. Rebecca nodded. She said you'd need time. That grief would consume you at first, but by 7 years, you'd either have found your way back to living, or you'd be lost completely. Her voice softened. She was worried it would be the latter. Jonathan broke the seal, unfolding pages covered in Amelia's elegant handwriting. As he read, tears he'd suppressed for 7 years began to fall. My dearest Jonathan, if you're reading this, I've been gone for 7 years. 7 years during which our daughter has grown from a child to nearly an adult. 7 years that you've had to navigate a world without me beside you. I know you, my love. I know how you retreat when hurt, how you bury yourself in work to avoid pain. It's what you did when your father died, what you did when we lost our first baby. I fear it's what you've done since losing me. But Jonathan, in trying to outrun grief, you may have lost something precious. Time with our Olivia. She has my eyes, my laugh, but your brilliance and determination. In her, the best parts of us. Continue. I didn't write this to cause you pain, but to remind you of something vital. Love doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms. It finds new channels. The love you had for me needs somewhere to go, Jonathan. Let it flow toward our daughter. I've asked Rebecca to watch over Olivia, to give her pieces of me when you couldn't bear to. But it's time now for you to take that role back. Not to replace me, but to honor what we created together. Remember when we danced in the rain in Paris? How you said life was about embracing the storm rather than waiting for sunshine. Embrace this life, Jonathan, the one without me in it. It's still beautiful, still worth living fully. Love is not measured in how long you hold on to grief, but in how completely you come back to life, for yourself and for those who still need you. Always and forever yours. Amelia. Jonathan looked up, vision blurred. How could she know? How could she predict exactly what I would do? Because she loved you, Rebecca said simply. Completely and honestly. She saw your strengths and your weaknesses. She moved toward the door. There are more letters in that journal. One's for Olivia's wedding day, for when she has her first child. Amelia wanted you to give those to her when the time comes. Why not you? Jonathan asked. Rebecca smiled sadly. Because she believed in you more than you've believed in yourself. Even knowing how you might retreat, she wagered everything on the certainty that you would find your way back. She paused. Olivia is in the conservatory. She's waiting for me, but I think she needs her father more. After Rebecca left, Jonathan sat motionless, Amelia's words echoing in his mind. Outside his window, he could see the garden where they had planted trees together, where Olivia had taken her first steps. For 7 years, he had looked at this view without really seeing it, focusing on distant horizons instead of what was right before him. With the journal clutched in his hand, he made his way back to the conservatory, each step feeling like a journey across years of neglect and avoidance. Broken bridges. The conservatory doors felt heavier than before as Jonathan pushed them open. Olivia sat among the candles and memories, her back to him, as she watched old videos play across the wall. This time, it showed Amelia teaching her to play piano, patient hands guiding small fingers across keys. "Rebecca's running late," Olivia said without turning, assuming it was Mrs. Henderson. "It's me," Jonathan said softly. Olivia's shoulders tensed visibly. "Rebecca's not coming, is she? She went to see you instead." "She gave me something from your mother." Jonathan approached slowly, as one might a wounded animal. "May I sit?" After a moment's hesitation, Olivia nodded curtly. Jonathan lowered himself onto the piano bench beside her, maintaining a careful distance. "I owe you an apology," he began. "Many apologies, actually. So many I'm not sure where to start." "You could start with why you pretend Mom never existed," Olivia said, her voice hardening. "Why you packed away every trace of her." "I never meant to erase her," Jonathan said. "I was trying to erase the pain." "Well, you erased my mother from our home, and then you erased yourself from my life." Olivia finally turned to face him, eyes bright with accusation. "Do you know Mrs. Henderson was the one who helped me prepare for my first school dance? That our driver Thomas taught me to change a tire? That the cook gave me relationship advice?" Each revelation felt like a knife. Jonathan had provided staff to care for Olivia's physical needs, never considering her emotional ones. "I didn't know how to be both parents," he admitted. "I failed you?" "You didn't even try," she countered, years of hurt spilling out. "You know what the worst part is? I used to make excuses for you. I'd tell my friends you were just busy, that you had important work. I defended you when Rebecca suggested I move in with her family instead." Jonathan felt physically ill. "She offered that? 3 years ago? I said no because I kept hoping." Olivia's voice cracked. "Hoping you'd see me. Really see me." "I see you now," Jonathan whispered. "I'm so sorry it took me this long." Olivia looked away. "It's too late. I'm leaving for Princeton in 8 months." "It's not too late," he insisted, opening Amelia's journal. "Your mother left something for both of us. Letters, memories, guidance she knew we would need." For the first time, interest flickered in Olivia's eyes. "Mom wrote those for us?" Jonathan nodded, handing her a sealed envelope with her name. "There are more. For graduations, your wedding day, your first child. She thought of everything." Olivia took the envelope with trembling hands, tracing her name in Amelia's handwriting. "She planned for me even when she knew she wouldn't be here." "She never stopped being your mother," Jonathan said. "And I never should have stopped being your father." Olivia broke the seal and began to read silently. Tears streamed down her face, but something else appeared too. A small smile, then a laugh. "She knew I'd get into Princeton," Olivia said wonderingly. "She says she's sitting with me as I read this, celebrating." She looked up. "How did she know?" "Because she knew you," Jonathan replied. "Better than anyone, including me." The realization of all he'd missed, all the moments, all the growth, all the struggles, overwhelmed him. "I can't get those years back, Olivia. But if you'll let me, I'd like to be part of your life going forward. Really part of it, not just financially." Olivia didn't answer immediately, studying him with eyes so like her mother's. "I don't know if I can trust that," she finally said. "Words are easy. You've sent birthday cards with nice words every year." The truth hurt, but Jonathan couldn't deny it. "You're right. I need to show you, not just tell you." He gestured to the piano. Your mother taught you to play. I never knew. She started teaching me. After she died, I taught myself to feel close to her. Jonathan's gaze fell on the keys. She taught me too once. I haven't played since before she got sick. In the silence that followed, both father and daughter sat with the weight of 7 years' separation and the fragile possibility of connection. The music returns. 3 months later, the Wright estate was transformed. Gone were the stark, museum-like interiors that had preserved the house in a state of suspended animation. Photographs of Amelia now hung in the hallways again. Her books had returned to the library shelves. The garden pavilion she had designed had been restored to its original beauty. Most significantly, the conservatory had become the heart of the home once more. Each evening, music drifted from its windows. Sometimes Olivia playing alone, sometimes Jonathan accompanying her with rusty but improving skill, and sometimes both of them simply sitting together, listening to recordings of Amelia's compositions. Tonight was special. Olivia had invited Rebecca and her family for dinner, along with Mrs. Henderson, Thomas the driver, and even the cook. People who had been her surrogate family when Jonathan couldn't be. It was the first formal gathering at the estate since Amelia's memorial service. Jonathan stood in the foyer, greeting guests with Olivia at his side. The change in him was remarkable. The perpetually distracted businessman had been replaced by a man present in the moment, his focus entirely on his daughter and their guests. The house feels alive again, Rebecca commented as he took her coat. Amelia would be pleased. We're trying, Jonathan said, glancing at Olivia with undisguised pride. Princeton sent her housing assignment yesterday. I'm helping her shop for her dorm room next weekend. And Dad's coming for Parents' Weekend in October, Olivia added, the ease between them still new but strengthening. He's rescheduled an entire board meeting. During dinner, Jonathan watched his daughter hold court at the table, telling stories and laughing freely. The stiff, defensive young woman from 3 months ago had begun to soften, though healing was still a work in progress. They attended therapy together weekly, another first for Jonathan, who had always considered such things unnecessary. After dessert, Olivia led everyone to the conservatory. Dad and I have been working on something, she announced, suddenly nervous. Together, they sat at the piano, a sight that still brought tears to Rebecca's eyes. Jonathan nodded at Olivia, and they began to play. The piece was one of Amelia's, but they had expanded it, adding sections that reflected both their individual styles and their growing harmony together. As they played, a recording of Amelia's voice joined them, taken from a home video, digitally enhanced, singing words to the previously instrumental piece. Love remains when all else fades, in memories made and bridges built, in music shared and time reclaimed. Love finds a way to live again. There wasn't a dry eye in the room when they finished. Mrs. Henderson, who had watched the family fracture and begin to heal, squeezed Jonathan's shoulder as she passed. She would be so proud of you both, she whispered. Later, after the guests had departed, Jonathan and Olivia stood in the garden, looking up at the stars. I found another letter from Mom yesterday, Olivia said. It was hidden in her favorite book, not in the journal. I think Rebecca didn't know about it. What did it say? Jonathan asked. Olivia took a folded paper from her pocket. It was addressed to both of us, actually. She wrote it the night before she died. Jonathan's breath caught. Read it. Olivia unfolded the letter, her voice steady as she read by the light of the garden lanterns. My beloveds, by now you've begun to find your way back to each other. I know this because I know the strength that lies in both of you. The same strength that has kept me fighting to stay with you as long as possible. Jonathan, my love, remember what I told you when we first met. That music never truly ends. It just changes form. So it is with us. What we built together continues in Olivia, in the love you give her, in the memories you keep alive. Olivia, my darling girl, forgive your father his grief. It comes from a love as deep as the one I have for you. And know that whenever you play, I am with you. In every note and rest. In the spaces between sounds where feeling lives. I leave you my greatest composition. Each other. Take care of the music we made. All my love, always. Amelia, Jonathan put, his arm around his daughter's shoulders. And for the first time in 7 years, she didn't pull away. She knew we'd find our way back, he said wonderingly. Olivia leaned against him, looking up at the same stars her mother had once showed her, as a child. She always believed in the music, even when we couldn't hear it anymore. In the distance, the pavilion Amelia had loved glowed softly in the garden lights. Not a shrine to the past, but a bridge between what had been lost and what could still be found. Inside the house, her piano waited for tomorrow's songs. The Wright estate was no longer an empty mansion filled with silent grief, but a home where love, transformed but undiminished, had finally returned.